All right. So this chapter is going to be very similar to the one that we do on Thursday, chapter 19 about leisure. A lot of this overlaps, as I said on Thursday. I'm going to do it just to say that we did it and you've been lectured on it, but a lot of this is going to be repeat information to Thursday, okay? All right, so just a brief overview is that independence in performing self-care ADLs is a significant aspect of life satisfaction, or what we're concerned about, quality of life. If somebody is unable to take care of themselves and do their daily routine, it takes a huge, huge toll on the person. Older people are just as wanting to be independent as you are. I mean, they really, truly do want to do whatever they did their entire lives. But now they have physical aspects or ailments that are preventing them from doing that. Defining what self-care is. So self-care is duties and chores ranging from personal care to personal business, from just getting up and taking a shower in the morning to paying your bills or running a business, whatever it is that made their life, theirs, is what we mean by self-care. Individual, it could be the family, it can involve the community. It could be something, like I said, as simple as, just your basic ADL stuff, or something that's very complex. There's some different models to understand what self-care is and what it means. The one that we're going to really focus on here is the internal classification of function system, the ICF. There are other ones there, but I'm not really even going to touch on those. Your book goes into some more detail if you want to read about them. Okay, but the one that is the most prevalent I actually want to talk about is the ICF. I'm not completely written the exam yet, so I'll let you know in your review. Internal classification of function. Yes. In chapter 18, but I don't know exactly what page number. Okay. All right, so everyday competence. What everyday competence is the person's ability to perform a broad array of activities considered essential for independent living. This is just their ability to independently function in a day. A personal value and meaning, that is what we're concerned about, though. That is what their occupational performance is. That is their values. Do they get meaning out of what you're doing and what you're trying to teach them? That is what we're more concerned about than anything, right? One thing that really affects that is their ability. That's them to competently carry out daily activities. Do they have the ability to do it? Is it unique to the individual? And is it integral into the person? Is it, their function, their human function? Is it that they are trying to be an active participant in the community? The big takeaway from this slide is that self-care is holistic, okay? Self-care in one aspect is just another way of saying a holistic perspective, okay? So some factors that affect everyday competence, their everyday function, their quality of life, or their personal values and meanings, the client factors, context, and what are the requirements of whatever activity that they're wanting to do. So how significant is self-care for a person? We've talked a lot about, especially at the beginning of the semester, about what healthy aging looks like. Their longevity, their quality of life, and their independence. All of that is affected by being able to perform their self-care. If you all of a sudden tell somebody they're not able to, do their daily tasks, and this is why, and, you don't provide them with answers, that is a lot of burden on them, because they either have to, someone has to be bathed, someone has to be fed. These things, hygiene tasks, all of that is a basic necessity. If somebody is not able to get that, then you are really downgrading their quality of life, their longevity, and you're running huge risk of infection just without basic care. Okay, much less the more complex stuff. A huge one is the nutritional status, their safety. Are they a fall risk? What is their general health like? All of this plays into self-care. This is the statistic I want to know your feedback on. If somebody over the age of 75, 12% need help from another individual to do it, and 20% to complete IDLs. Do you think that number is low or high?
I think that number is very low.
You think that number is very low? Okay. Anybody else?
That's not very low.
You think it is low? Okay. Maggie, what do you think? You think that's low or high or about right? You don't think it's that off? Okay. Elsa, what do you think? Over 75, only about 12% need help with basic like ADL stuff and 20% for IADLs.
It's high.
Okay. What would you guess it would be? Without seeing that statistic, what would you think it would be? Faith, what do you think it would be?
I kind of think that I would say like 75. It looks good for 75, but as you get older, it'll get higher. So I don't know if that's good. They should split it up more. 75 to 80 can be a huge drastic change.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's fine. I think a lot of the people who do need help have kind of died by that point.
By 75.
Probably.
Oh, my dad is like
65.
65.
Does your dad need help? Does your dad need
I
help?
thought he was going to get a text.
No, but he's still
That's what I'm
got 10
saying.
years.
I know.
It's only a one
No,
leg and
I
she
don't
lives
mean
to
like
92.
I don't mean like people. I don't mean people
They
in
need help.
general are dead. I meant like people who need help by this point in their 60s are probably passed away.
People that needed a lot of care in
Yeah,
their
yeah.
60s.
Like, this
I
is-
see what
this
you're
is-
saying, but you said that way wrong. I get what
I
you
don't
mean.
mean you die at 75.
So, but that's not really what this statistic is meaning. It's just meaning in general, the whole population.
Yeah.
People that are older than 75 years old need help performing their basic ADLs. 12% of them. I've always felt like this statistic was low.
80% of people over 75 are still driving.
Well, that's an idea that, yeah, roughly. Well, it depends on what their IADLs are, right? If they weren't a caregiver, they might not drive. You got to remember that too. That just because it's one of our IADLs doesn't mean that's what one of theirs is. This is their IADLs.
So that would mean they're
Could just be
getting
walking
help.
fluffy down the street. You know, it could be something like that. But you know, the very basicness of it, they might not need help with taking a shower. This is somebody they need another person to do it. So they're at, you know, you think about our assist levels, they're at, you know, the very minimum min assist, you know, for needing help or setup. I guess if you want to go a little bit higher, they have to get, you know, so and so has to set their stuff out for them in order for them to complete their daily tasks. But I've always felt like this statistic was kind of low. But what do you think is playing into that number being low? Huh? People just aren't willing to accept the help. Okay. What would be a good thing though that's making that number low? People are living longer. People are staying healthier longer. We have adaptive equipment that people didn't used to have. You know, instead of them having to bend over and pick up stuff, we have reachers. Instead of them, you know, falling in the shower, we have tub transfer benches. You know, we have all these things now that used to not exist. People used to just come up with stuff, and it made mortality and life expectancy a lot lower, and they needed help more often because there wasn't stuff out there to help people, as well as like just medications. You know, people used to die of all kinds of stuff that they don't die of now. So you know, people are living a lot longer, and they're living a better quality of life. You know, socioeconomic status plays a huge role in that. But if we are adequately giving them the help that we have, especially in the United States, I think that number is probably right on. All right, so Western culture norms place value in meeting self-care needs and fitting in with society. The need that every individual feels to fit in and have a group of friends or whatever, that does not go away with old age. It actually, in my opinion, goes up. I think that people of older age have even more of a feel of wanting to be included or wanting to, have people check in on them or have people come visit them. Those kind of things mean more to older people. And a lot of people don't think that way. A lot of people think, oh, they're just watching the Hallmark Channel all day and drinking their coffee, living their best life. But a lot of older people will tell you that they have complaints of being lonely or, depressed, especially nursing home residents. Nursing home residents, they make little friend groups and they'll go down and, play cards or bingo or whatever it be. And that's their sense of a social outing is going down the hall. I love when you see a skilled nursing facility like get out their community van and take people out in the community, even if it's just to take them out for breakfast. Our facility used to take them out once a month and they go eat at Bob Evans. They could earn money by winning bingo or whatever games that they played, and then they take them out for breakfast. And I just thought that was awesome because these people are stuck in a facility 30 or 31 days, out of the month. And, even one day of getting them out to go do something, they would take them shopping at the Dollar Tree. Most people, they don't have a lot of money when they live in skilled nursing facilities, so they take them out and let them get some stuff. And the OT department, we were always so overworked and so busy, we never really got to be a part of that. We got to be part of setting it up, but we never got to go because it really wasn't billable time if they weren't on caseload and whatnot. But those kind of things mean a lot to people. They really do. And home health, you have more of an opportunity to do that kind of stuff. You can say, hey, for therapy today, we're going to go to the hair salon or whatever. You can do stuff like that. That's billable time, depending on what your goals are and what your patient is. So, but don't be afraid to do those kind of things with patients. Talk them over with your OT and find out a way to do it. Functional capacity and personal self-care have been shown to relate to all of these issues: healthy self-esteem, life satisfaction, healthy aging, personal identity, perception of life, situation, social acceptance, and social well-being. A lot of times you'll hear nursing home residents say that when they go in, they feel like that's it. There's nothing left. Their quality of life is gone. They're there to die. And it's so sad because it does not have to be that way. I don't know why we've turned our nursing homes into prisons. It doesn't have to be that way. Some people go into nursing homes that don't need to be there. They could be in adult living facilities. Lord, we had one guy who had Medicaid insurance, and he would take taxis and go. He actually got kicked out of skilled nursing because he took a taxi to the liquor store, came back and was trying to give shots to another resident. He was not allowed to live there anymore. That was against the rules. But they weren't allowed to kick him out because it would be abandonment and he had nowhere else to go, all this other stuff. And he was perfectly fine. And he lived in a skilled nursing facility.
What if the nurses held on to this? They served beer to people. And
if he had it, he's probably not allowed to. It depends on your facility. And Genesis in particular is very strict, like really, really strict with rules. You're not allowed to have it in your person because it makes a safety risk if somebody gets into it without you knowing. That's a huge issue. But his issue was he was freely giving it to other residents. So he broke the rules big time. No shots of Jack Daniels for Ethel. All right. So the importance of psychological well-being. The inability to perform self-care has a negative impact on the psychological well-being. Again, the whole loneliness, isolation, feeling of being a burden for people. You'll hear a lot of patients say that I don't want to be a burden on my family. I just wish that I would go because I don't want to be a burden on my family. When somebody says that to you, it's very, very important that you take that extremely, I hate to say extremely important. It's very, very important that you take that seriously because, there's high rates of suicide in older adults too. So, their threats and their comments, you take them just as serious as you would anybody's, right? It needs to be reported. They need medical help. They need to talk to somebody at the very lowest level of care. So make sure that kind of stuff you take super serious, okay? We've already I don't know why that slide's on there twice. Okay, so stroke, again, like I told you, there was a slide on here about stroke. I really didn't even want to go over, because we're going to do a bunch of stuff about strokes on Thursday, and we've already done the big stroke lecture. So strokes affect older people at a higher rate. They're at higher risk, and their outcomes are not as good. Okay? All right, so cardiovascular disease. Some things that you're going to see with that are a lack of energy, decreased fitness, lower limb swelling. All these things are going to affect how somebody's going to be able to take care of themselves. Dementia has functional limitations, joint disease, or pain and range of motion, and limits how well they're able to function. Some sensory issues, if they have vision issues or hearing issues. We've talked about those before, how that is a huge safety risk, how dressing, eating, everything is literally affected by vision. What do you think of the sensory problems? What do you think is going to be the highest prevalent of issue? Hearing problems, okay. Why do you think hearing? I can't even hear Maggie from the back. So.
Losing hearing is naturally
Huh?
the other one.
Not losing hearing, but diminished and low vision. So what do you think is more prevalent? Jennifer? What do you think hearing?
My mom can barely hear me.
Yeah.
Like glasses.
Right, it is more acceptable. I would agree with you. I feel like hearing is one of the biggest things. You have to watch yourself as a new practitioner, because you're going to find yourself accidentally screaming at patients, and you don't mean to. And you'll get in a habit of doing that, and then you'll come across the one out of every 10 patients that doesn't have any kind of hearing loss, and they're like, you don't have to scream at me. I'm right here. You're like, I'm sorry. I'm just used to this. I have to talk louder. I apologize. I've done that many, many, many times with patients, and I just have to backpedal and say, I'm sorry. Just getting a routine. And, most people I work with have hearing issues, so I tend to speak loud. They normally don't take it personal, but I've had some get kind of mad at me because they feel like, and you have to talk to them on their level. One good hint is don't stand over top of anybody and talk to them. And you might not, I'll never do that. Yeah, you will. You won't even realize you do it. But if you push somebody up to a table in their wheelchair or whatever, and you're standing beside them giving instructions, they're probably not going to hear half of what you say, and they're going to be very confused. Get in a chair and sit right beside of them. Look them in the eye so they can read your lips. They can make sense of what you're saying, and you can explain it to them, and you're on their level. Don't ever stand over top of a patient. It just makes outcomes way worse, and it's kind of demeaning to the patient too. With touch and taste and smell, it really just depends on the person if they have any underlying conditions. But if they have touch issues, again, that's safety. A lot of them have a decreased touch in their fingertips or sense in their fingertips, whether it be from diabetes and pricking their fingers all the time, or, it could be like my grandma. She burns her fingers all the time because she takes stuff out of the oven and rolls it with her hand, like bread or whatnot. She just does always. We've always told her that she had no fingertips left, but a lot of older people have diminished touch in their fingertips. And then taste and smell, again, you remember what everybody's friend is when they're old? I told you everybody puts on their food when they're old.
Barbecue.
Well, that was that one guy, but yeah. Why barbecue? What does it have? What are the two things that they can smell or taste?
Sweet and salty.
Sweet and salty. Sweet and salty are the two things that they can always taste. Put a lot of salt on something, put a lot of sugar on stuff. What they do. All right, so we're going to start talking about measuring self-care, but we're going to jump to the ICF video because I like it the best. Hang on. The environment modifications real quick before we do that. So when we go through this ICF, that's just identifying strengths and like weaknesses of what somebody can do. Okay. Some environment modifications that I want you guys to be thinking about are for if they're having trouble with mobility, widen doorways. Okay. If they can't go upstairs, fine. There's tons of services out there to get ramps installed to people's houses now. There's a lot of church outreaches that will do that too. That you just call the church, say, hey, so-and-so needs a ramp, and they'll come and build it for them. Bathroom and dressing areas, installing grab bars and non-slip floors or non-slip mats, whatever you need to do in order to make that environment a little safer. In the kitchen, I think sensors are awesome. I don't know why they're not in more houses. You just walk in, light turns on, like University of Charleston's bathrooms are. How many falls could that have saved if they just turned on the sensor in their kitchen or in the bathroom or in the hallway at night? And they walk through it, boom, light turns on. That doesn't take a whole lot. If you've ever seen somebody switch, take a light switch on and off or swap it out, it doesn't take a whole lot. And they need to call an electrician, fine, but just about any handyman can switch out a light switch. It's 3 wires, and then modification of the community. We will, at some point, we'll go out in the community if we can find time, and we'll go to a store and do like a community assessment to see, the handicap or a community handicap assessment. But you would be surprised how many places will say that they're handicap accessible, but they have like a foot deep pothole right beside the handicap parking spot, or the parking lot has a big divot in it right by the ramp, and they can't get quite up into it. A lot of those things people just walk over and never notice, but you guys need to have eyes for that this is not considered handicap accessible, and then we'll write a letter and send it to so-and-so at whatever store and tell them, hey, this is a potential safety risk. Okay. All right. Are we good? All right. We're going to watch this video. I apologize. The voices in this are kind of annoying, but this is the best video I've ever found to teach you what the ICF is. I'm going to show you the first one, but for the sake of time and sake of boring you guys, there's 5 of these to watch. I highly recommend watching them, but I don't want to. You would be here for about 30, 45 minutes. I don't want to spend that long watching videos. So I will show you what the first one looks like, and then you can see it's like there's video 2, and then it'll show video 3 all the way down. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.